Hello, my name is Luke Cullum, and I'd like to officially welcome you to my Jim McLean X Factor presentation, where today I'll be going over a little bit of the history of the X Factor, how Jim McLean created it, what exactly is the X Factor, and drills that will help you increase it and close it on the downswing. So, without further ado, Jim McLean came up with the X Factor in the early 1990s. He first released the article in 1992, and he worked closely with CEO and founder Mike McTeague of the Sports Sense Motion Trainer. And in the early 1990s, when a PGA Tour event came to Doral, they worked closely and they hooked up every single player onto this SMT machine. And they were able to discover a direct correlation between high club head speed and power relating to a bigger gap or differential between your shoulder turn and your hip turn, known as the X Factor. So, to say that again, they hooked up players to this machine and they had them make a big coil to the top of their backswing, and they found that the bigger gap or differential between their shoulder turn and their hip turn, which creates an X when these lines extend, had a direct relationship to longer driving distance on the PGA Tour. The standard gap or differential is 40 degrees. So if you have 100 degrees of shoulder turn and your hips turn 60 degrees, that gap is 40 degrees, which is about the standard. They tested John Daly, and he had the biggest gap or differential, and that was 48 degrees. And that had a direct correlation to him being the longest driver on the PGA Tour. As well, Lenny Clements and Mike Reed had gaps of about 27 and 30, and they were two of the shortest hitters on the PGA Tour. So Jim McLean and Mike McTeague found out that it's simply not how much you turn, but more how you turn. So now I will go into the setup and how to create this large gap or differential in your backswing. So we know it all starts with the setup. This line on the ground here is my ball target line. It's the line on which I am aiming on. So with the driver, we know we want a wide stance with the ball placed off just the inside of our front heel. And we know some players like the setup open and some players like the setup closed. For this presentation and for amateurs, it's a great idea to have our feet, knees, hips, and shoulders parallel to this ball target line. We know that we have about 9 to 12 degrees of spine tilt away from the target, and this is a great setup position to be in. We take the club back to step 2. My club should be parallel to this ball target line, and I should be feeling weight shifting in to my right heel and right leg. Now I arrive at step 3, the L position, and this is a very good position to know. I'll show you from the face-on view. We arrive here at the step 3 L position, and this is where the first L is formed. Between my lead arm and the club shaft form the letter L. At this point in the swing, my weight transfer is complete into my right heel. And now I arrive at the top of my backswing, step 4, where we see the X Factor. So here at the top of my backswing, my knees should have rotated about 25 degrees. My hips have rotated about 40 to 65 degrees. My shoulders, as you can see, have rotated the most, and that range is about 70 to 110 degrees. And my chin also moves. It has a swing of its own. My chin has moved 20 to 25 degrees. But for the X Factor, we're going to be focusing on the shoulder turn and the hip turn and that gap and differential. So, as well, there's 2 more L's that are formed at the top of your backswing. So, when I'm here and I arrive at the top of my backswing, the upper half of my trail arm and lower half of my trail arm form an L, as well as my forearm and hand on my trail hand also form the letter L. So those are the 3 L's that you form in your backswing. And it's very important that you maintain those L's as they lower in the downswing. As we're at the top of our backswing here, when we start down, these L's are going to lower and they're going to be maintained, and they may even increase as we come into impact. Now, we understand that not everybody is flexible or as athletic, and some people, they're older golfers and they might not have the physical attributes to make a 90-degree shoulder turn or even more. And we've got a couple drills that you can think. The first one is simply think right hip back to start your backswing. This will help you get a better hip turn and a better shoulder turn. Instead of swaying your hips, you simply just think right hip back, okay? And that's going to help you get into a bigger coil. There's a second drill that we also tell a lot of our older golfers, and it's put a golf ball under your right heel. You're going to set up to a golf ball and you're going to swing to the top of your backswing, and this is going to make you feel a braced right leg. You're not going to be swaying or you'd be off balance right away. This is going to encourage that hip turning straight to the back. And the third and final way that you can increase your hip turn and shoulder turn in the backswing and get into a bigger coil to make your golf ball go farther if you're older or not as athletic is allow the right leg, the trail leg, to straighten. But we don't believe it locks. If you turn back and you allow this leg to straighten, it will allow for that hip to rotate more in your body and for your shoulder to rotate more. There's very few players that have a straight right leg on the PGA Tour. Just about one or two. Jordan Spieth is one of them. We see that his right leg straightens, but we believe it does not lock. So those are 3 great drills you can do to help your shoulder and hip turn if you are older. Now, let's pay attention to the downswing, because you can have a great backswing and build a great gap with your hip and shoulder turn, but it all means nothing if you don't have the right kinematic sequence starting down. So I'll show you from the face-on view. A Jim McLean fundamental we have found is before that club gets to the top of the backswing, the lower body has already started moving forward. That is called the two-way move, coined by Ken Venturi. And the fundamental is before the club finishes its completion in the backswing, the lower body has already started forward. Another word for this, as we call, is stretching the X Factor. They found that some players, the most range is from 15 to 20 degrees of stretching the X Factor. The most is 28 degrees. So as those shoulders are still coming back, they're still coiling, your lower body is beginning to open. And that is stretching your X Factor, getting you extra power. So I'll show you from down the line. As we come up, that club is still going back. My lower body is starting the kinematic sequence. My feet, knees, hips, and upper body start, and my arms and my hands respond to the actions of my body. My L's are lowering and they're staying intact. They may even increase and they may even straighten here as I'm passed through impact. My upper body has now almost caught up to my lower body because it's rotating around the spine, one fixed axis, where the legs have to transfer weight from the right to the left, and then they have to rotate around 2 axes, the right leg and the left leg. So that is why the spine catches up to the hips starting down. Now, I'd like to give you a couple drills for increasing your X Factor gap. The first drill in which you can do is swing a weighted club or a wooden broomstick. You'll do this, I don't have a wooden broomstick today, so we'll pretend my golf club is a wooden broomstick, or you can swing one of those weighted clubs, one of the shafts with the yellow weighted balls on the end, or you can grab 4 clubs in your bag. Just make it heavier. And what you're going to do is you're going to swing that to the top of your backswing. That's going to encourage the use of the big muscles in your golf swing and to coil, and not the hands and the wrist, because you'll need to use the big muscles of your swing to get back there. Another great drill that we use for increasing your X Factor gap is going to be the coil drill. So I'll show you here from the face-on view. I'll take this shaft on the ground. We're going to put it right in our golf ball, like so, and that's going to be right inside my left heel. Okay, I'm going to set up here to this ball, and I'm going to stop at my step 4 position. Stop. We should note that my back shoulder is past that line right here. I have made a full, complete coil and gotten a lot of my shoulder turn there. So you set up, you pause at the top of your backswing, and my shoulder should be past that line, and we should see my body shifting to the right. That would be a proper coil. Now, we have a few drills that are great for closing the gap as well. One of them is called the baseball drill. And this drill will help you get the right kinematic sequence for starting down. You're going to set up to the golf ball as you normally would, and then you're going to take your lead foot next to your right foot. So now your club head is about a foot away from the golf ball. We're going to swing back, and when that club gets right before our step 3 position, we're going to step forward, and then we're going to swing. This is a great drill to help you close that gap. So once again, we set up to the golf ball, we move the club head and our left foot to be together with our right foot. You can't do this almost early enough, starting the lower body first. That club gets to step 2 or step 3, and I'm going to step before it gets to the top, showing my weight shifts forward, and then swing. Do this off a tee, as it is great. Those are some drills that you can use to increase the gap and to close the gap. Now, just to do a quick recap of the X Factor. We know that the X Factor is the gap or differential between your shoulder turn and your hip turn, and it has a direct correlation to the longest hitters on the PGA Tour. As you can see here, when I coil that back, if I have 100 degrees of shoulder turn and 60 degrees of hip turn, these two lines will form the letter X, and my gap will be 40 degrees, which is a great number to strive for and a great gap to have. Practice these drills if you're older and you need to increase power off the tee, or practice these other 2 drills if you want to increase your X Factor, and remember to stretch your X Factor starting the downswing with the lower body and the arms and hands connecting. Thank you very much for listening to my Jim McLean X Factor presentation.